So I remember this story where I think Swami Vivekananda once felt something in a far off place where a shipwreck happens or something like this happens, and he feels it. So I was wondering what plane does Yogi is in that, or what state he is in to do this kind of thing, because in a materialistic plane we are all individuals, so I can't see what the other person is feeling. And I believe when you are in samadhi, I don't know if you feel any emotions, I have no idea. But this seems to be a different plane altogether, where a yogi feels suffering of pain of somebody who is very far away. So I was wondering if you can shed some light on that and how it works.
Well, two things. There's great value in suffering. Firstly, there's great value in every experience. There's no experience that really is wasted. We were discussing this actually last night or earlier on. This morning. Oh, this morning it was. That unless you suffer, you can't really understand another person's suffering. So that's a useful thing to get to have that empathy. Now, every mental movement meaning a combination of emotional responses, intellectual responses, all of that, and sense experience, all that combined, according to the Sankhyas, is mind. But what we call this mind is actually more accurately called Anta Karna. That is, it's an internal instrument. You can think of it, there's an external instrument called the body, something like a car. If you follow my phrases, you'll easily call it earth car. Made from earth, because all the potatoes and all that, and spinach and what have you, have come from the earth anyway. So I think it's fair to call it earth car, made from food. Now that is also transferred and transformed into something more subtle, an internal instrument that has definite parts according to the Samkhyas. So we normally register all our impressions through the earth car, the instrumentation of that, the sense organs, and then that gets registered in a more subtle way so that we can recognize what these impressions mean to us from on the basis of memory and formulate reactions. Actions not specifically formulated, we tend to call habit or instinct. So that's the normal way that we're operating. But this is just an instrument, which means that there are some subtle things involved behind that. And when we talk about the yogi's mind, what we are saying is that the yogi is opening different levels of consciousness. Spiritual practice has that effect, so that there are new things being understood and developed, subtle things being understood and developed. Now, this is where the Samkhya formulation of tattvas comes very handy. So we can see that the beyond the border of our normal experience embracing gross objects, sense organs, both reactive and absorption, information and reaction. 10 organs are there. 10 organs, 5 objects, 15. Plus this internal instrument called mind, 16. 16 categories are there. We can almost draw a line there and say, this is our world of superficial understanding. But underneath that are subtle waves, combining, recombining, called tanmatas. We can change the terminology. We can, if we like, be a little creative and call them these angels or divas. Subtle elements that combine and recombine, culminating in a final causal thing called akasha. And with each one is an opening up of consciousness. Until we arrive at one thing, And that is that the most subtlest of all the elements has something even more subtle behind, energy. It's that energy that actually is not different or separate from anything else, but transforms itself into all the other things. So when we talk about a totality, then we're thinking of all of this combined in one thing. So I began saying something, I realize now I didn't complete it, that the Occidental argument really about creator and creation, and on the other side evolution, we can actually say from a certain point of view, I cannot believe in evolution since I believe in a totality. A totality is a totality. It cannot change. It looks as if it's changing. So, oh totality, where are you coming from? If there's a totality of existence called the universe, there's also a totality of mind. We can call it cosmic mind. It is the personal God. This personal God, or cosmic mind, is one broadcasting station. What we call your mind, my mind, this and that, is really only a substation of it. We have the capacity to tune in into a broadcast. So repeatedly I keep saying, when the RTE or whatever it is, RTE or BBC or whatever broadcasting station there is, broadcasts to 1,000 people or across a nation to 4 million people, it is not that they have 4 million different versions or copies of the one broadcast. The same broadcast is delivered everywhere to everyone. A kind of using an all-permitting field, all-penetrating field, where different waves are allowed to combine and recombine until it arrives at our ear. And that ear also requires the mechanism of the brain to interpret what we have received. That whole thing is being received. We have a receiver. Now, this point of view then says, if we decide to tune in to a certain event, regardless of time and space, then we'll catch it. Let us make a hypothetical situation. Supposing I have such a sensitivity because of my empathy with the suffering of humanity, then all these events, regardless of where they are in history or in time or location, I can tune into that and catch the impression. Now, some people call this telepathy. One of the most fundamental immature questions I first asked my teacher is, what's telepathy? In one jump, he explained, overlooking my childishness. Now you see, there's only one broadcasting station, one mind. When two people have an empathy, they tune into the same broadcasting station. For example, twins have a natural affinity for each other. They'll tune in naturally to each other's wavelength. Tuning into the same wavelength, we call it telepathy, and wonder, how did this happen? And the more you develop spiritually is equivalent to say, the more the mind expands and opens. It means the more sensitive you are to the fine tuning that is taking place in the broadcasting station. So the yogi's mind will be in a state of sensitivity to tuning in to the cosmic mind, expressed by Jesus as, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This is Jesus' way of saying it. In the beginning was the Word. This is the Christian introduction to the whole subject. One cosmic mind is there. One cosmic body is there, cosmic person. This is laid out in Purusha Suktam and other texts like this. There is only that's why we call it universe. Because there's only one verse of it. Universe. Similarly, one cosmic mind is there. Tuning into that personal God that we call cosmic mind, we can call it cosmic Christ, or cosmic Buddha, cosmic Ramakrishna, personal God. Then we are able to get the appropriate reception. People tuning into the same thing, they'll get this message. As you develop, as a yogi develops more and more of these from a layperson's point of view. I don't like that phrase, but anyway, let's call it like that, because we're all extraordinary. There's no such thing as an ordinary person. We are all extraordinary. We all have the capacity to exploit our full potential. And so what you'll find as time goes on, what used to be called unusual, synchronicity, unusual events, small things. I think of somebody. Next moment, they call. In the beginning, you think, oh my goodness. You may put it into one of two categories. Firstly, you might say, oh, it's all just chance and accident. Somehow it happened. But as repetitions of these kinds of things occur, then you see it's no longer a surprise. The expected thing comes. On what basis? On the basis that the real authentic thinker is cosmic mind. The real authentic thinker, knower, witness, is only one without a second, and any thought issued is infallible, unless neutralized by any counter thought. Somebody dedicated to truth, every word of that person will come true. Then we'll say, oh, this person can forecast the future. No, not exactly. Truth will beget truth. When we are not truthful, then we get a jumbled world of ignorance and mixed messages, and it all becomes difficult and it's all untrue. You dedicate your whole mind and soul and body to truth. Only truthfulness will come. The Mundaka Upanishad will give us this Mahavakya, Satyam Eva Jyati. This is used as the Indian national motto. Truth alone triumphs. Untruth will be difficult, create difficulties. So similarly, any quality issued of purity and nobility and truth and strength and beauty and goodness and love and harmony, that's what your world will create. And you'll be sensitive to that. You see how inventors will bring this about. The yogic terminology, by the way, of course, is to take all our normal energetic efforts and rechannel it, to take all that dispersion physically from Ida and Pingala in the yogic language and rechannel it into Sushumna, where these levels of consciousness are opened up systematically in what we call chakras. These are just levels or layers of consciousness that are opened up. They're not physical, by the way. These are layers of consciousness, levels of consciousness, where we get deeper and deeper understanding, where we get closer to the truth more and more, and each one will correspond to a tattva. The tattva of the Samkhyas will be there. So 5 tanmatras will be there. And with increasing subtlety and increasingly less and less combinations. The evolution of it will be more and more combinations. The devolution of it will be less and less combinations. Ultimately a simplicity. And the ultimate simple thing, the cosmic mind. So whenever these unusual things take place, those who know me will know I only have one comment, cosmic mind. It's not an unusual thing. But is there something beyond that personal God? Yes. You have to look for the impersonal to complete the series of categories. And beyond that, of course, the transcendent position, that Nirguna Brahman will be there. All the rest will be Saguna Brahman. You see, we have to learn to shift our ideas and understand there's only a totality which is there. One cosmic mind is there. One cosmic body is there that we call the universe. So in understanding this, these categories of Samkhya are useful. In fact, the Ashtavakra Samhita will tell us unequivocally that if you understand that all the gross elements are crystallized versions of these subtle tanmatras, these subtle, real elements, the real elements which are there, not the expressed elements, the real elements that are subtle, immediately you get your freedom. Immediately you get your freedom. Once you understand the nature of nature itself and the combination of waves that go on there, as soon as you really understand that, means you look at the world in that way, freedom comes to you because you have immediately that sense of discernment. You understand that the variable aspect of this existence is something like a play of waves. What does that do in your practical outlook? It shifts your whole position, your whole outlook changes. You become a cheerful person. Seeing the play of waves and engage in it, all you have to do is play the game well. That's all you have to do. So we leave it at that. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.